Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow blue, birds fly, over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? Why, oh why can't I? Is that where you are? Why can't I be there too? I miss you, Ruthie. I miss you so much. My name is Billy Locke, and I am recording my final moments. I lived in the woods of Vermont with my darling Ruthie for several decades, and I couldn't have asked for a more full and happier life. I just wish the ending wasn't this. Ruthie and I have been together since we were but a little boy and girl in the Depression era of the late 1930s. We were neighbors here in our little New England town, but it wasn't until we were both taken into the city to watch The Wizard of Oz in 1939 that we became best of friends. We both went in with our respective parents with the last bit of money they had. Ruthie and I were seated next to each other by chance, and as the screen filled with color, as the songs burst out, and the drama unfolded, our little eyes watched and were entranced. Instinctively we held each other's hands through it, as we smiled at the magic unfolding right in front of us. When we both came back, we couldn't stop talking about it. We met every afternoon and played make-believe of Munchkin Land or the Emerald City. We lived in the real world, where things were harsh, drab, and our faces were shoved into the pains of everyday life. But in our minds, we could live in that place, over the rainbow, and be happy. As we grew older, and we started seeing each other as more than just friends, we fell in love, and eventually we got married on March 21st of 1955. I took up work as a mill worker, and she would get some extra money here and there from her paintings. God, was she good at those brushes and pigments. Now, it wasn't a storybook marriage. We had fights. We had dark times. The saddest thing was we couldn't have children of our own. But we never lost sight of one thing: that we loved each other wholeheartedly, and we always remembered how we felt as those little kids in the theater. And every night, just before bed, I'd sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow to her, as a reminder of what was and what eventually will be. As time progressed, naturally, I retired. I was getting older and slower, and so was she. We were absolutely surprised we even made it past the millennium. As the golden years reached over us, I bought us a small piece of land and a cabin in the woods of northern Vermont, cut off from the world except for one person. It was a mile or so away from a small hotel that a family we had befriended years ago owned. We particularly looked at their kids and grandkids as our own. It was so sad to see them dwindle down to just their grandson Marcus running the hotel, whom I really don't think is ever going to keep the line going. But he kept tabs on me and Ruthie, and he treated us good. Whenever he had a chance, he'd get us nice things from his trips. I think the best gift he ever gave us was introducing me and Ruthie to a lost second verse of Over the Rainbow. Ruthie loved it so much. A few days ago, as winter was on its way out and spring is starting to come around, I was out in the woods, between the cabin and the hotel a bit down. Our anniversary is coming up, and I hadn't figured out what to get her this year. This past month, Marcus had closed the hotel and had gone off to New York for a much-needed vacation. He promised to bring me back something to surprise Ruthie with, but he wouldn't be back until after the 21st, so I needed something to tide over the gap. I grumbled and harrumped as my old bones cracked and ached. As a tiredness started to creep on me, I took a seat on a small, snowy stump. It was splintery and it was frozen over, but to me, it may as well have been a cushioned throne. As I considered just giving up, my eye caught one of the older trees that had been toppled over recently. Hell, recently enough, but the snow hadn't even covered where the roots had once been. I groaned as I got myself up and walked over to it, curiosity tugging at me. There I saw the most interesting thing. There was a large, round circle, about a foot in diameter, then 3 straight rods, mismatched in length and angled, together like a lopsided Z, though it appeared to have been part of something bigger at some point. The turmoil of the uprooted tree appeared to have broken it apart as pieces of other rods were trapped in the roots. All the while, as I pondered why on earth this thing was here, I couldn't help but notice the entire thing, rods and circle, were made of iron, and not like any iron I'd ever seen, but definitely iron. After considering it a bit, I decided I could put this together as a makeshift O and Z, hokey though it may be. I lifted it out of the ground, where it clearly had embedded into the earth for a long time. Just as I hoisted it and started walking, an odd feeling grew over me. It took a good 2 hours to make it back, and the entire time the unease collapsed in on me. As I got closer to home, I realized what was wrong. It was the silence. No birds, no wind, nothing. Like the whole world was holding its breath. It wasn't until I went behind the cabin and hid the iron rods and circle into a box that a wind picked up and started to breeze through the trees, rustling snow from its branches and shaking my windows. As I walked in, I saw my sweet Ruthie, wrapped up in a blanket in her chair. She was fast asleep. I smiled. No matter how aged we were, she would always be that beautiful girl I fell in love with. I leaned over and I kissed her forehead. Her art book was next to her, propped open. I reached down and took a look at what she had drawn. As I looked over the pages, my heart leapt to my throat. My Ruthie had always drawn nature, painted scenes of joy and life, things that would make you smile. What I saw, I couldn't believe was my Ruthie's art, but its style was undeniably hers. The picture was of a beautiful, graceful bird, long plumage and a crane-like neck. It would be relatively normal and gorgeous, but its face was not. Its face was human. The cherubic, childlike face contorted in a dark, dangerous, monstrous smile that promised malice. The open, grinning mouth was filled with long, needle-like teeth, dripping something black, and as if in contrast, in the background, she had drawn a rainbow. She slowly drifted awake as I looked down at her work. I tried to smile weakly at her. "Morning, sleepyhead. What's going on with this picture?" I asked. And she smiled weakly. "Hello, dear. Do you like them? While you were gone, I had a dream. I dreamt of a beautiful place, filled with wonderful creatures, fantastic landscapes, things I could never imagine. And that bird there came to me and told me I had a gift she hadn't seen in a long time, and that if I made 4 pictures for her, one of spring, summer, autumn, and fall, if I did, she would take me away, over the rainbow, just like we used to say. We could be somewhere else far away. I mean, I know it's not real, but it's a nice thought." With a worried look, I helped her from her chair. Disturbed by it all, so many questions going through my head, but it seemed best not to bring it up again. When it came time to go to bed, I was so wrapped up in my thoughts and concerns that for the first time in 57 years, I had forgotten to sing her to sleep. In the dead of night, I was awoken by a scream. Her scream. I dragged myself as quickly as I could out of bed. I heard loud, wet sounds hitting the ground. Low whimpers of pain. My Ruthie was in pain. My body cracking and yelling at me as I moved towards the sounds. As I walked down the hall, I saw a paper on the ground. Drawings done in the same way that the bird had been, Ruthie style. The first was a grotesque dog. At least the body was a dog. The face was that of a chimp, where its eyes were supposed to be, were mouths filled with human teeth. Out of its own mouth was a long, long tongue that wrapped around its body. The next one was a heap of vegetation, branches and leaves, shaped like a spider, at first seeming mundane, but then I noticed long, long tentacles, like a horrific octopus, were hidden among the mess, each one topped with black, beady eyes. The last one, as I rounded the hall to get to the living room, was the tree, the same tree that had been toppled over, and rising out of it was a black, shadowy figure, its head topped with what looked like a macabre horned deer skull. The black sockets of the thing's eyes seemed to stare back from the paper. I moved as quick as I could to find my Ruthie. And there, in the living room, I found her. My heart ached, my mind screamed. My beautiful darling, my Ruthie, laying on the ground in a pool of her own blood. Her nightgown splattered with red, emanating from a large gash in her chest. Her once beautiful face, covered in red, contorted in a bizarre, pained smile, her eyes staring back at me, and then her lips parted. "Billy, I'm going over the rainbow. Come with me, please. Come with me." Her eyes pleading for me. I tried to move to her as quick as I could, only to be knocked by the ground by an unrelenting and unseen force. I fell to the floor and heard a sickening, painful crack come from her leg. My eyes went blurry from the rush of anguish I felt, and I looked to the floor, looked to my Ruthie. Her head was bent back, staring at me with that smile. "Over the rainbow, Billy. That's where you'll find me." As the words left her lips, the door wrenched itself open. Cold snow and wind blew in like a hoary messenger. Beyond the doorway, in the darkness, I saw eyes, glittering animal eyes, and in a sudden instant, the same invisible force dragged my Ruthie away, slamming the door shut in an echo of finality. As the pain and sorrow, the confusion took hold of me, I slipped into unconsciousness. I don't know how long I had been out when I finally came back to the waking world, but it must have been at least a day. It was dark out, but a brilliant moon lit the cabin's windows. The blood-stained and horrendous pictures still littered everywhere, and I tried wondering if maybe I was in a dream. It took so much effort to move, but I was only able to drag myself forward at a snail's pace. It took every bit of strength I had to get to the windowsill. With intense effort, I pulled myself up to the window to look outside, my heart pounding in my ears. I looked out and saw the trees, covered in a blanket of pure white snow, reflecting the cold white moon. I looked in between the darkness, trying to see if I could find something, anything, hoping against hope, that from here I might be able to see something regarding my Ruthie's fate. Oh, how I wish I had it. There, framed in the blackness, I saw her face, her gorgeous face, clean, happy, illuminated by the pale moon. She was smiling. I broke into sobs of joy. She was okay. She was okay, I thought. Then a breeze shifted the branches, letting more light hit her, and my hope turned to despair. My stomach lurched at what I saw. Below her neck, she had been skinned. Her flayed flesh glistening and wet with blood. Her muscles grotesquely punctured by branches and stitched with string. like a madman's marionette. Only her porcelain white hands kept their skin, which she lifted and waved at me as clouds slowly drifted in front of the moon, plunging her in darkness again. And when the clouds parted, she was gone. I collapsed, and I wept. When the morning came, I opened my eyes and saw daylight. The blood, the drawings, my broken leg, all were still very, very real. It had been no dream. My Ruthie was truly gone. With the last bit of strength I had left, I dragged myself to the kitchen. I retrieved this recorder and retrieved the pistol I keep in case of emergencies. My Ruthie is gone. I don't know where she is, but I can't continue my existence without her. I can't, and I won't. I hope I can see her again. Somewhere over the rainbow. Some day I'll wake and rub my eyes, and in that land beyond the sky, you'll find me. I'll be a laughing daffodil, and leave the silly cares that fill my mind behind me. Somewhere over the rainbow, blue birds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why, oh why can't
Can you come with us? Over the rainbow? Goodbye, Billy.